All right, my friends, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It is Friday the 13th, 10:45 p.m. here in Lakeland, Florida. It is 79 degrees with a humidity of 87%. 87%. You know, most of the time it doesn't feel too bad out here at night because the sun's not beating down on you, but there's not a lot of air movement. It's very, very humid, of course. And I'm fine, but every once in a while I get really hot. Like I feel like someone just turned up the burner, and I don't know what that's about. And maybe I'm getting ready to stroke out. I don't know. I hope not. I hope not. But anyway, so I'm just sitting back here, and I thought I'd take some time while the rest of my family's inside watching an episode of The Fall of the House of Usher. I'm not really into horror. It doesn't scare me. I just don't get into it. It's just, it doesn't thrill me, doesn't excite me, doesn't entertain me. But it certainly does them. It does a lot of people. I guess I'm just the oddball out. And I kind of wish I wasn't. I wish I liked it more. But I just can't. I try. I really do try. But, you know, I feel that way about a lot of movies. It's not just horror movies. It's pretty much any movies nowadays. I have to watch something that kind of takes you back a little bit. In fact, when I was growing up as a teenager, I loved the old black and white movies from the 30s and the 40s. Usually anything beyond that I didn't like as much unless they were westerns. Yeah, I liked movies from the silent era on up until about 1950. That was about it. I watched so many of those. I had such an appreciation for them. Tonight, when I was flipping channels looking for something to watch, the movie Gaslight was on. Now, I've seen it once, and if you've never seen it before, you really ought to watch it. It was made in 1944, starred Ingrid Bergman, the one who was in Casablanca with Humphrey Bogart. Beautiful, beautiful woman. Anyway, this movie is where in modern day parlance we get the word gaslight from. You know, when someone gets you to question your own sanity, even though you know what you're talking about, you're actually the one with a good head on your shoulders. You might be a decent human being, but you might have somebody in your life who gets you to question your own sanity. And they're constantly agitating you, not just to irritate you, but to really undermine you. They'll lie, they'll manipulate things, they'll turn people into flying monkeys. This is called gaslighting. That's where they got the term, was from that 1944 movie, Gaslight. And if you've never seen it, you really ought to watch it. But it was on tonight on TCM. And I thought about watching it, but I knew they wanted to watch TV. So I'm willing to give that up to watch things at a different time, because I don't really have the patience to sit down and watch a lot of movies. So as you can guess, tonight's video is going to be a take your time kind of a video, because like I said in my last video, it's a take your time kind of night. And I'm not going to go through anything in particular order. I scanned over a few things I could talk about. I didn't really spend a whole lot of time. I'm just going to speak, you know, whatever comes into my mind. Hopefully I can say something that makes sense and gets all of us to think. So, having said that, I would appreciate it if you leave your comments down below. Make sure you like this video, subscribe, and share it with somebody else that might be interested in this kind of content. Anyway, so tomorrow we are going fossil hunting, my youngest son and I. I've never done this before. We're doing it for his 17th birthday. He turned 17 on the 1st. So tomorrow, there goes my cat again. This happened in my last video. I have a cat that loves to get kind of rowdy out here when I'm out here. When the door is closed, it wants in. When it's open, well, it just wants it open all the time. If he's on one side of the door, he always wants on the other. It doesn't matter what you do. Anyway, he might drive me nuts to the point that I have to get up and get rid of him. So anyway, we're going fossil hunting. down on Bowling Green, which is about 30 minutes away from here. And they say that almost anybody who goes at any time finds something, like shark's teeth, and people even find megalodon teeth down there. And that's what my son's really hoping to find. He loves that kind of thing. He wears a shark's tooth on a necklace around on him all the time. So I really hope he finds what he wants, because that'd be a great thing to remember. If we do, I will show you guys. If we find something worth, mentioning, I'll definitely bring it to your attention. And if I find anything really, really good, I'll just give it to him, since it's for his birthday anyway. So that's what we're gonna do tomorrow. Kind of looking forward to that. Never done anything like that before, so I'm really anxious about it. Now, my oldest brother, who's 5 years older than me, when we lived in Indiana, I grew up in Indiana. We grew up there. We grew up around a lot of farm fields and farms. Well, I mean, if you can follow my train of thought, you know why I just said it that way. We grew up around a lot of farms, and my brother and his friend were avid arrowhead hunters. And the farmers would till up their fields, and they'd let them go out there and just mine and pick away for arrowheads. And my brother and his friend had hundreds, if not thousands, of arrowheads. I don't know if thousands is an exaggeration. I just kind of throw it in there because I just remember it seeming like there was an innumerable number of arrowheads. And I guess you can't really do that anymore, from what I understand. Like the state now claims that you can't keep them, but they certainly did back then. I don't know if the laws were different or if they just didn't know about them. So anyway, he had tons of these things. And when he went off to college, at some point he needed money, so he put an ad in the paper or something. And this is when we lived in Grand Prairie, Texas, and which is like a suburb of Dallas. Like it's, I don't know if it's actually a suburb of Dallas, but it's kind of the Dallas, Fort Worth, Irving area. Irving's kind of one of those places like Grand Prairie, Arlington, Irving, where the Cowboys Stadium is at. Well, anyway, my brother got a phone call from a man named Ken Kercheval. If that name sounds familiar to you, you might be scratching your head and having to think a little bit. It's mostly going to be to older people that will remember this. Anybody younger than 40 might not remember who he is. But he played Cliff on Dallas. Yeah, he played Cliff on Dallas. So my brother went to Ken Kercheval's house and negotiated with him on a price for these arrows. I don't know about all the arrowheads, but at least some arrowheads. And while he was there, Ken Kercheval got a phone call from Larry Hagman, who played JR on Dallas. Now, I was never a big Dallas fan, but I remember it was a huge thing, back in the 80s. And that was a great time for me. Everybody else watched Dallas and Knots Landing and Dynasty and stuff like that. All part of that whole primetime soap opera era. And I don't know, maybe there still is one, but anyway, that was kind of cool. I think maybe both of them have passed on, but I know Larry Hagman is gone. I don't know if Ken Kercheval is. I think he might be. So that was kind of cool. But anyway, so we're going to go hunting for fossils tomorrow and for shark's teeth and hopefully find a megalodon tooth. I just hope I don't uncover a body or something. That would be, it'd be a little awkward. But that's not a find I'd want to keep and take home and say, well, this is what you got for your 17th birthday. But nevertheless, that's what we're doing. And of course, fights are on tomorrow night. I think this might be the weekend that Dylan Dennis and Logan Paul are supposed to fight. I do not care for either one of them, but I would be highly entertained in watching that just to see what would happen. I think that's the only reason anybody would watch it. And of course, the UFC is going to be on, and Paulo Costa and even Oliveira they pulled out of their fights. And so they got replacements, the Volkanovski, and I think even Max Holloway might be replacing somebody. This might be one of those things where it seems horrible that it had to happen this way, but it might actually turn into a better fight card as a result. Of course, these guys who are stepping in are doing so in a short notice, but they're still really good. So it'd be, if they happen to win with that short notice, it'll make it even more glorious. And the guys that are doing the replacing are the ones whom I want to win. All right, so I don't know. I thought about doing sometime, I keep wanting to do a live stream. I've really got to work on some things to be able to do it, but I actually even thought about doing a live stream with me and my sons watching the UFC and then commenting on it. Not commentating, but commenting on it and reacting to it. While we can't show the UFC on screen, you can watch us because of legalities. Or you could watch us comment and react, and you could go along with us, on the whole ride, which I think would be fun. So I've tossed that around. I'm not so sure my sons are in. Like, I can't, they're a little more shy. They're not as interested. They wouldn't be as, invested. But I think that would be a fun video to do. I really think it would be. So anyway, let me tell you about a beard product company. I'm not promoting them tonight. I'm going to tell you about them. Bay Area Beard Company. I ran into Matt, who owns Bay Area Beard Company, while I was in Key West. He ends up on one of my videos, and I corresponded with him since I've been back, and he just recently sent me some beard oils to try out. So I'm going to try them for about a week. I think there's about 4 or 5 different beard oils he sent me, and I am really excited about this. But I'm not doing a review tonight. I don't have an affiliate code or anything. That will change. I can guarantee it. That will change. But they come in these, look at these containers they come in. Isn't this cool? Very secure. That's how it came. I've received beard oils before that, in regards to how they're packaged, some of them every once in a while leak. Okay, but this, what I like about this, he goes the extra mile. He didn't have to do this. Most of them don't leak regardless, but this seems even more secure. I just love how this is done. Look at this. Yeah. So this is Bay Area Beard Company, and these beard oils are biblical themed. Like, all the ones I have are, well, with the exception of 1 or 2, are named after a place or something in the Old Testament, which I'm a huge fan of. That sounds horrible. That doesn't sound sincere, does it? I'm not a fan of the Bible. But I love my Bible. I'm a Christian, so I'm very well versed in it, so to speak, no pun intended. But I do know a lot about the Bible, and I grew up with it all my life, and so I know all the stuff that he's talking about when in references that he has on the labeling in some cases. But I've only tried this one tonight called Indoor. Man, this thing is magnificent. I cannot wait to get back with Matt and tell him how much I like this. And I'm not gonna reveal everything about this. Here, I'll do one thing. I'll take this out of here. Look at this. This is nice. Look at this top. It's got a wooden top on the dropper. That's a cool touch. It's a nice touch, different. And he gives you the description in the back, the scent profile, the name, and everything. Let me tell you something. The graphics, I think Matt does all the graphics for this, and you can tell he puts a lot of thought into them, and it's very telling when somebody puts a lot of thought into the graphics and the product itself. You're going to get something good. I can just tell when you look at his stuff. And so a lot of you may not know about him. I'm gonna talk more about him later in his company later on. I think his website is biblicalbeard.com, even though the name of the company is called Bay Area Beard Company. He's out of Tampa. Tampa is just like 40 miles west of me. So cool. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, it's gonna be nice. Anyway, I'm drinking cherry Coke tonight. And right before I turned this on, I was reading. I'm almost done. I'm like 10 pages away from being done with this book by Nathaniel Philbrick called Mayflower. This book has exceeded by far any expectation I had. It's riveting, absolutely riveting. I had no idea. Like, I love history, especially early American history. But he goes so deep. He makes you feel like you're actually there with the Pilgrims. He's unbiased. He doesn't take sides with either one. He reports it as what you would think a true journalist would. And it's so exciting. It is so exciting and disturbing, quite informative. I tell you what, I've always thought about that period in time as being so long ago, but in terms of the history of nations, it really wasn't. But it's just the way he writes that makes you feel like it's not that long ago. Really great book. I love this. So I'll put a link in the description below so you can check this out. Like, I'll be done with this tomorrow. So maybe I should have waited to bring it up, but I didn't. Let me tell you about an encounter I had, or some guy I met the other day. About 3 days ago, I went to my office. In our office, I don't go there all the time because we work remotely. Well, I say remotely. We start from home, but we work out in the field. We don't have to start from the office anymore. So we don't go to the office very often. And our office is not in a very great neighborhood. Many years ago, it used to be considered a really nice side of town. It's not anymore. That's very common to see as cities grow and as they age and as they, develop new parts of town. But it's not uncommon to run across quite a number of homeless people. And I don't think anything of it. I really don't think anything of it. People are always friendly to them. They don't bother anybody. And so, hold on, I've got to let my cat in. He's really pestering me. All right, sorry about that. So anyway, there's this guy walking up the breezeway. Tall, skinny individual. He had a beard, and you could tell he was homeless, but the beard looked freshly trimmed. So I said to him, hey, nice beard. I really like that. It looks great. He's like, oh, it's funny that you just brought that up because I just got my beard trimmed. And the guy who trimmed it is a YouTuber. And he put me up in a hotel and he asked me if he could trim my beard and record it and put it on YouTube. And he said I had a 2-year beard. And the way he described it, he said it came, the end of it came just above his navel, which seems a little too long to me for a 2-year beard, honestly. But this is what he said. And he said, well, I don't know. It's kind of a big commitment. It took me 2 years to grow this. He goes, but I might do it because, everybody keeps telling me, oh, let this guy trim your beard because you look homeless. He's like, but I am homeless. I am homeless. By the way, this guy's name is Rick. Real nice guy. I talked to him for a while. And so he was telling me this, they've been real nice to him. I guess the guy who cut his beard is out of either Tampa or Plant City. And so the YouTuber's name is Travis Doodles. Okay, you probably see the picture on the screen. Look him up. The guy gets like millions of views. So apparently he goes around giving free haircuts and beard trims to homeless people. And it seems like what I see on YouTube, I haven't watched a lot, but a lot of what I do see is shorts. And it's not long content, it's shorts. And what he does is he helps clean up homeless people. And he, in some cases that I've seen, he puts a roof over their head, especially if there's inclement weather coming, like a hurricane, for example. He put Rick up for like a week. Another time he put him up for a month in a hotel. He's done it for other people. He'll go out and buy them clothes and food. He'll pray with them. It's just really cool. And he leverages his YouTube platform to raise money to do this. And it seems like just a wonderful cause. It's very very heartwarming and very touching. I would suggest checking him out and seeing if you like it. And if you feel compelled, you could always help support his channel. I'm sure he would appreciate it. But anyway, Rick told me, he says he just put the video of him trimming my beard up on YouTube. So when I got done talking to Rick, I went to YouTube, found it. It was the first video that popped up. I commented on it, and I commented on another video. But you can go look it up, Travis Doodles. So just because I'm trying to find common ground with this man, I said, well, I've got a YouTube channel too, but I make some of the stuff I make is beard tutorials, beard trimming tutorials. He said, oh, really? And I said, yeah. I said, but I don't trim other people's beards. I just kind of show guys how they can do it themselves. And he thought that was kind of cool. So he said, okay, I'll check it out. He goes, what other kind of videos do you make? I said, well, I make, kind of like life lesson or encourage your heart kind of videos. That's what I try to aim for. He goes, I could tell that about you. I could tell by the way you're talking to me and the way you approach me that you're that kind of guy. And I have to admit, that made me feel really good. That was, to me, that was a huge compliment. I feel like he had given something to me. And I that's not why I said anything to him, but it meant the world to me. Because I don't know. It's just, I don't know what it is, but I don't know if I can articulate it right without coming off as though I'm being self-serving. I just want to say that, I guess, to say to you guys, try to be an encourager to other people, because you never know what someone's going through. We might judge people and think we know more about them based on scant observation, and we might not have any idea of what we're really talking about. And that person might just need a little bit of encouragement. They might need you to come along and say, I believe in you. Or just the mere fact that you took the time to talk to them might mean a lot to them, might lift their spirits. You don't have to give people silver and gold. If you don't have, you don't have to give people anything you don't have, but you can give them kind words, you can give them attention, and you can give them time. And I just want to say that might be something you want to think about or aim for or make it your goal for tomorrow. It doesn't necessarily have to be homeless people, but it can be really anybody in your life. It could be people in your own family, in your own home. So that was a neat encounter. That was the one that I can, I want to talk about it now so that I remember it in the future. I don't write a lot of things down, but if it's on video, it'll be there, I guess, forever, right? So anyway, that's that was kind of a neat thing. So I have something I did want to talk about. I've been thinking about this for quite a while, and I guess it could end up being somewhat of a touchy subject. I know I'm sitting really close to the camera, but it's because I'm not using a microphone. This is not what I was going to talk about. I'm just mentioning this now. I don't have a microphone on, and I'm trying to be somewhat quiet so that I don't disturb them in there. So I hope this video is loud enough. Anyway, the thing I want to talk about could be somewhat touchy, because I want to talk about tipping. And I am of the opinion, as well as a lot of other people, that tipping in our nation is out of control. Out of control. You've probably noticed. You have probably felt this way. Now, you're going to have a certain number of people who are going to want to appear virtuous, and while they might be thinking one thing, they might say another. They might say, oh, well, I don't have any problem tipping, but in their heart they might. Some people don't have any problem with it. People who just have plenty to work with, to give away, okay? Tipping's a funny thing, though. There's a lot of things to take into account. But my main point is you see it everywhere, and I have noticed that it has started changing people's demeanors, their aspects, the way they treat you, the way they talk to you. Even if you've been a long time customer. And then once tipping gets introduced into the equation, if you don't go along with it, they start to treat you different. Because now there's a new idea. And then alongside with that, now you're getting asked to tip for everything, right? Everything. So I want to give you a couple things to think about from an article. And also, I would love to hear your input. You can agree with me or disagree with me, either way. But I just have a few thoughts about this. So I was looking at, let me get my glasses here. I was looking at an article by Forbes, and they talk about this. The article is titled Tipflation. Americans think tipping culture is out of control and workers should be paid more. All right. And this article is written by a man named Jack Kelly. He's a senior contributor. He says, I write actionable interview, career, and salary advice. So this is where this is the angle he's coming from, okay? Just so you know. Kind of helps to know that because it influences the way a person thinks and conveys information. All right. So he says, no matter what businesses you patronize in the United States, it's likely that you'll be prompted to offer a tip. However, the rapidly changing tipping culture raises questions about its fairness and effectiveness. A recent survey by Bankrate found that roughly 66% of Americans have a negative view of tipping. Around 30% of respondents think that tipping culture is out of control, with more companies encouraging customers to tip at their counters than ever before. Have you noticed that? Are you seeing that? Reply with a yes or no down in the comments. Patrons find the pre-entered tip screens aggravating, 32%, and think businesses should pay their employees more rather than rely on gratuity. I want to interject here for a second. So, the company my wife works for, they're very good to their employees. It's a home builder, and they do wonderful things for them. Well, one of the last things they did for them was put them up in a hotel with a +1. With my wife working for them, the +1 was me. It had better be me. And my son also works for the same builder, so his +1 was his sister. So all four of us went. We had 2 separate rooms, and we had a great time. But when we got there in the morning, I was a little hungry. I don't normally eat breakfast, but I was a little bored. I was waiting on my wife and my son to get out of their meeting. So my daughter and I were like, well, let's go get a little snack or something. So we were in the hotel, a real nice hotel there in St. Petersburg. And I went in to buy just two drinks, like a bottle of Coke, or bottle of Dr. Pepper is what it was. Because you guys know I like Dr. Pepper. Bottle of Dr. Pepper, like a 16 ounce or 20 ounce, whatever it is. And my daughter got like a bottle of juice, and I got, what did I get? Oh, a small, just a package of Pop-Tarts. One package, one serving for me, not a box of Pop-Tarts, just a package of Pop-Tarts. I go to pay for them, and I used my card. And when I used my card, I couldn't use that to pay for unless I tipped. And the first option that you have, the lowest tip amount that you could leave was 30%. Now, some of you who travel and frequent these kinds of places, maybe that doesn't alarm you. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, so my what they charged me was just way too much. It wasn't like these people helped me. They didn't help me pick out anything. They didn't bring it to the counter for me. They didn't unwrap it and stick it in my mouth or lift the drink to my lips. They didn't do any of that. They stood behind the counter. And yet I paid this exorbitant price for those three things. Three things was a little less than $20. But that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, okay? I didn't do anything. That was the base tip rate. I got other examples. All right. So, tipping is a way to show your appreciation for a service performed and a job well done. Well, no duh. If you tip at an establishment you regularly frequent or a handyman who does a lot of work for you, it can ensure perpetual positive experiences. From an altruistic perspective, gratuity provides much needed financial resources to supplement meagerly hourly wages. Well, okay, so the word tip, it's believed by a lot of people that from a long time ago, and I'm not going to get my history right, so I'm not even going to try, that tip originally meant to ensure, was an acronym for to ensure promptness, but that's debated. It doesn't really matter much for this conversation, but that's what they're saying here. If you want to get better service, you better tip. The problem is when people have just, okay. I'm gonna tell you now. It's like this. I go to Subway almost every day for lunch. But Subway, over the last year or so, has started adding tipping to the card machine. You know, and they make it a point to tell you that you can put your card in now. It's going to ask you to tip or skip. Well, the way they say it implies that, well, you could skip, but. Because I said it so loud, everyone's going to know that you had an option. And they never used to ask for this. And I've always, because I go to the same place all the time, the people are always very friendly to me. But I noticed that after they added tipping, they became less friendly. Because you know what? I don't tip at Subway. Because you have your base job, you have your job that you're already supposed to do. They're not going above and beyond. The tipping only ensures that they're actually doing their job to begin with the way they're supposed to. Did I say that right? That's not what tipping is supposed to encourage. It's supposed to encourage people to go above and beyond their job. But that's not what's happening. These people already hate their job. They don't, a lot of times they don't provide good service, good, smile, friendliness, and now that they're getting tipped by certain people, that's their only motivation to actually do the job that they were expected to do to begin with without a tip. And even before they had tips, when they were friendly with you, afterwards now, when you don't tip, well, now you get the bad service. Not really, maybe not bad. They're not going to be friendly. And it's just changed the whole dynamic. Now, it's not just at Subway, okay? This is happening, seems like, almost everywhere. There was a woman who talked about when she tried to pay her mortgage over the phone, so she called her mortgage company, and they asked her if she would be willing to tip. That's ridiculous. People talk, well, I'm going to see if an article sheds more light on some of this. I don't want to get ahead of it and steal its own thunder here. Well, it said, the last sentence in this says, from an altruistic perspective, gratuity provides much needed financial resources to supplement meager hourly wages. Well, they're only meager hourly wages because they have introduced tipping. All right. There's often confusion surrounding what service providers you should tip and questions about why some employees get gratuity while others don't. Customers are left wondering why they bear the burden of tipping instead of businesses paying their staff more fairly. That's a good argument. Despite their negative view of tipping culture, Americans are amongst the best tippers in the world. I've heard that from my daughter, who works as a bartender. Customary standards are that you should tip around 15 to 20% of the bill, most people in the service industry are paid less than the minimum wage, which is generally low to begin with, and workers rely upon tips to enhance their low pay. They should see what I used to get paid for minimum wage. The introduction of minimum wage, decades ago was one of the worst things that they did. If you look at the history of that, it actually hurt employees, and people get paid less because of it. One of the reasons why tipping has become a major topic of conversation is because of tipflation. The rapid increase in restaurants, stores, shops, supermarkets, cafes, airports, and many other establishments implementing digital payment checkout systems that prompt customers to select the gratuity rate, sometimes exceeding 30%. That's what I was saying. This creates an uncomfortable interaction with a sense of pressure being exerted. Customers are also nudged to tip online orders and low service kiosks. Nearly 75% of remote transactions in food and beverage now prompt you to leave gratuity, according to data analysis from Square. The pandemic contributed to tipflation, as many people were tipping more generously to support service industry workers who were struggling financially. These were the frontline workers who shopped for our groceries and delivered meals to our homes through apps. This trend has continued through today. So it did have its place, and this I understand, but we're not in the same place now. Okay? Now, it says here, tipping has become so ingrained in our culture that customers feel obligated to tip, even when the service is subpar or zero labor took place. This creates an expectation for gratuity regardless of the quality of service. In many places in the U.S., the minimum wage for tipped workers is lower than the standard minimum wage. This means that companies can legally pay their employees less and rely on tips to make up the difference. This creates an environment where workers heavily depend on tips to earn a livable wage. This is the problem. This is one of the many problems I have with this, is that now people who know they did not have a job that provided a livable and a sustainable income are now thinking that there's a chance now that they don't have to do better, and that they are now going to be subsidized by these tips. And these are not, and I'm not talking about the bartenders or servers in your restaurants. I'm talking about where there's very low service to no service at all, or to where there was no tipping before because people were just doing a base job, like they were supposed to just do their job to begin with. McDonald's, unless you get into management, in fast food, unless you're getting into management, is not really where you want to be the rest of your life if you want to survive, okay? It was never meant to be that way. Everybody who is there for any length of time is always encouraged to move up into management, because it's really not designed and set up for people to stay in those positions long term. But now they're believing they can. It's killed the ambition of so many people, at least in my estimation. Okay. Tipping can lead to income disparities among workers, as those in certain service industries, such as restaurants, may receive more tips than others, like fast food workers. The wait staff may make more in tips than the workers who do the cooking and cleaning. That could be a real problem. This can contribute to an unequal distribution of income within the labor force. Relying on tips to make ends meet can lead to emotional distress for workers, as their income is unpredictable. This can create financial anxiety and job insecurity. For me personally, and this is just my own opinion, I think having a job that allows you to earn tips, I would only think of as part-time. I know a lot of people would disagree with me. I know a lot of people probably make a good living. There's bartenders out there that make decent livings, but listen, don't do that the rest of your life. I know the people that bartend would balk at what I'm saying, but don't do that the rest of your life. there are better ways. There really are. I mean, you could say that about a lot of things, but when when you have to rely upon the charity, basically at that point, of other people, and you're only providing a service that is no more than a luxury. These are, the whole fast food industry or even the fine dining, all that stuff is just luxury. There was a time when we didn't have that. And there'd be a lot of people who'd be much more financially well off if they didn't frequent those places very often. But because they're consuming luxury services and experiences, you're able to put food on the table, but it's going to come and go like this. I mean, they all admit to that. And you can see here it says that it leads to emotional distress, emotional insecurity. That's what you're signing up for. Okay, let me see if there's any more I want to read from this. Okay, so there's a positive side of tipping. This is the positive. They give pros and cons. The positive side of tipping. Some workers may benefit from the opportunity to earn more than a standard fixed wage, especially in an industry where tips are generous. Well, this fixed wage they earn is usually minimum wage or less. Customers can reward excellent service or express gratitude through tipping. Okay, these two things I just mentioned are all fluff. That's just all fluff. I can still consider them somewhat of a drawback, but now they're going to give you what they believe their drawbacks are. The drawbacks of tipping culture. Tipped workers who don't receive enough tips may struggle to make ends meet, leading to financial insecurity. Well, of course. Customers might feel burdened by the social expectation to tip and calculate appropriate gratuities. Well, see, that's the thing. I have no problem with tipping when I want to, when I deem it appropriate, and that's the way it's supposed to be for everyone. And the more I'm pressured to tip for every single thing, the less I want to do it. And if I get negative feedback as a result of it, that place is not going to get my patronization. Don't you know if I said that right? My mouth is dry and I'm tired. Okay. Non-tipped workers may earn less than their tipped counterparts, even if their job responsibilities are similar. One more here. Tipping can perpetuate income inequality and create a reliance on the generosity of customers instead of fair employer compensation. Well, that's the thing. And one of the arguments that is made is that, well, if they actually pay them a fair wage and get rid of tipping, they're going to have to charge you a lot more for, let's say, the food that you're eating, if that's what we're talking about. There's a lot of industries we can talk about here, but food is the easiest one. Well, they're going to charge a lot more. I call shenanigans on that. I think that's just bull crap. I really do, because they're already charging exorbitant prices. The markup on these things is ridiculous. Everything goes up with inflation. They could pay these people a decent hourly wage or whatever, salary, and still come out ahead. I'd say that there's a good chance they can make more because there might be more people that are happy, meaning more patronage. I don't know. I'm not sure that I'm expressing all of my thoughts about this subject as I've thought about this over time, but I'm doing my best at the moment. No, I have not written any of these down. Maybe I should have, but it doesn't make any difference. I mean, if you're still listening at this point, I'm grateful. For companies, relying on tips can reduce labor costs, of course, as gratuity offsets the low wages paid to workers. This can be particularly appealing for businesses with slim profit margins or with fat ones. That's my insertion there. Addressing the issue of tipping culture involves broader discussions on labor laws, minimum wage, and fair compensation for all workers. Some argue that companies should pay their employers a livable wage without relying on tips, creating a more stable and equitable income for workers, which is what I was just talking about. In some places, there have been movements to raise the minimum wage. On the other end of the spectrum, there have been calls to eliminate the minimum wage for tipped workers altogether. Okay. So there was another article I read. I don't know if I'm going to get into it. I'm going to scan it real quick. I don't know if there's much more that I can say that's going to shed more light on it for you. But you don't have to think long and hard. We've seen this everywhere, and I think it's hurt more than anything else. I mean, before you know it, it's going to get as bad as, let's say, going and looking to buy a new car, or a used car for that matter, and you know how you do the test drive. Don't be surprised if they start asking you to tip them for going on the test drive with you. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but can you imagine? I can, the way it's been going. At the local Publix here, I've told you about Publix before. It's a big grocery store chain. Great grocery store. They do not allow tipping for their I guess you would call them bag boys, the people who take your groceries out of the car for you. They don't allow you to tip them. When I was a teenager, I worked for Kroger. They did allow tipping, and I liked it a lot. I do think there's a benefit to that, but even then, bag boy is not what you want to be all your life. And even with the tips, you didn't want to stay a bag boy. It's just, there's all sorts of thoughts and feelings about this subject. I think it's gotten out of hand. And people want to use the excuse that, well, there's inflation, so they need to make more money. Well, it affects everyone. And if everyone did the responsible thing, they would probably cut out a lot of these luxuries. And you really would make less anyway. I mean, if people treated themselves right and were generous to themselves first, and really took care of themselves financially first, you probably would make less. You'd be hurting more. There's also the assumption that people always need to be making more money, and that any kind of drop in salary or tips is not good. But there is no financial demographic that doesn't change. A millionaire one year might not be a millionaire the next. The rates at which that fluctuates would surprise you, probably. That's why when people make the argument that you have the rich who, oppress the poor, and the rich aren't always as rich as you might think. They don't always stay rich. It comes and goes, and listen, I'm going down a rabbit hole now. I think I just introduced something that I should have kept my mouth shut about, because it would take another video to get into all of it. But anyway, Thomas Sowell, the great economist and philosopher, Thomas Sowell, has a lot to say about that. But anyway, there's what it comes down to in the end is entitlement and an imbalanced view of people's generosity. And it is good that people would be nicer and provide good service in order to get tips. It would teach and train people some people skills. I get that. That's one of the it's funny they didn't mention that as a positive. That is a very good thing, but we have to question whether we're able to do something good without the promise of something in return. And I would love to see, it's going to get to the point where people cannot do a good job. They cannot show up and perform and do whatever it is you're supposed to do the right way without extra more coming from you all the time. Listen, this video has gone on longer than I thought it would. 50 minutes. Good grief. Can you believe that? So I'm going to end this now. I'm sure they're done watching their show in there, and I might be bothering them with all my chatter out here. I do thank you for watching. Please leave your comments down below. Be respectful. Feel free to agree and disagree, but be respectful and, you know, change our minds if you can, or shed some light on it and mention things that I haven't talked about here, because I could always use more information. All right, guys, I gotta get going because I've got to get up early tomorrow and go fossil hunting. I hope to show you some of the fruits of our labor after that's all done. All right, have a good night. I'll see you again.